Design as a practice helps us understand, engage with, and shape the world around us. And to date, it has birthed some of our most impactful products, services, symbols, and movements. From prosthetics that complete the human body, to the electric car paving the way to emission-free transport. But design isn't just about aiding progress, it's a creative tool used to solve real-world problems and improve quality of life. Design is a means for creating a sustainable and equitable society. Right now, the world is facing many critical challenges. From cybersecurity to systemic racism, species extinction to social inequality. That's why the United Nations penned the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, creating an urgent call to action for all countries. While these challenges affect our global society as a whole, we, as communities and individuals, experience them in very different ways. For example, the impacts of climate change can be unique to each location. Some countries are dealing with increased storms and hurricanes, while others are battling soaring temperatures and drought. To be effective, design solutions must meet the specific needs of their local context. And it's important to understand that what's right for one context might be wrong for another. For instance, while a system to reduce our carbon emissions is always helpful, it might not be the prioritized solution for a community struggling with floods. As we know, complex, large-scale problems, like climate change, require many solutions, both immediate and long-term. To ensure we deliver impact where it's truly needed, we need to foster local design talent, giving rise to more solutions designed by local communities for local communities. By supporting local design ecosystems, we not only create more radical and inclusive solutions, but also address the urgent needs of the most vulnerable in our societies. We also empower citizens to be responsible and make valuable contributions to reaching the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We are all accountable for shaping our future. Every contribution, great and small, moves us towards a more sustainable and equitable global society. Design thinking has become a critical problem-solving tool, both in education and business. But what exactly is design thinking? And why is it so important? Design thinking is a technique that encourages individuals, businesses, and organizations, the people who are designing, to really focus on the people they're designing for, the users. In essence, design thinking is all about focusing on the human need. By putting the user at the center, we naturally create better solutions, be it a product, service, or process. Design thinking is typically not a linear journey, but is an iterative process. This means testing with users in their real context and learning each time to create a better solution. When using design thinking as a problem-solving tool, you become more agile, able to learn faster from your mistakes, embrace flexibility, and pivot to new directions. The solutions you create are more impactful and provide more than just incremental change. And you also reduce the risks associated with launching your solution, helping to ensure it works in the real world. Getting the hang of it? Let's look at an example. This is Plastiques, a company transforming used fishing nets, ropes, and rigid plastic into high-quality, raw plastic materials called green plastics. But why do we need green plastics? Well, as we all know, plastic pollution is a mammoth problem. It's littered through our forests, choking up our waterways and oceans, and wreaking absolute havoc on our wildlife. Did you know the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a floating island of garbage, is 3 times as big as France? With such a huge and complex challenge, how does one even begin? Or determine exactly how we can make a difference? Here's where design thinking can help. By focusing on the human need, Plastiques clearly identified the exact problem they wanted to solve. whilst there are plenty of solutions to replace plastic and limit its use, there aren't enough to reuse it. This is where they could really make an impact. So they designed a series of machines to turn existing plastic waste into high-quality raw plastics in the form of plastic pellets for new products. To develop the right technology, they worked in a co-creative process, combining their own custom-made processing machines with existing equipment. And like all quality solutions, it took plenty of iterations to get it right. It also took getting to know the users, the companies who produce plastic products, from furniture producers to packaging companies, fashion houses to cosmetic brands. It was essential to understand the exact needs they had, how they intend to use Plastique's products, as well as ensure the finished products were up to standard. With their innovative products, Plastiques have not only served a genuine need, but are helping companies combat plastic pollution and ensure cleaner environments and oceans. The most valuable aspect of design thinking is that it can be used by everyone to address a vast range of challenges and lead to better solutions with brighter impact. As we know, design is far too important to be just left to designers. Design thinking empowers all of us to design to improve life. The Design to Improve Life Compass is a problem-solving tool that moves you from initial challenge to final solution, guiding you step by step along the way. It's the backbone of the Design to Improve Life education methodology and can be used in all kinds of scenarios where process facilitation is needed. Whether you're an educator, student, entrepreneur, designer, or in any other kind of profession. For example, you might be looking to introduce sustainable practices into your business, or perhaps you're designing to help refugees feel welcome in their new homes. The compass will guide you through the design process, getting you from A to B with concrete actions, methods, and techniques. So how exactly does it work? The compass has 4 process phases: prepare, perceive, prototype, and produce. Each phase comprises a series of techniques to help you focus and navigate through the design process while encouraging curiosity, creativity, and innovative thinking. The prepare phase is about finding the exact problem you're trying to solve. It's about taking a deep dive into the overall challenge you're designing for and exploring all of the smaller challenges within. Once we've identified the root issue we need to solve, we clearly define it. That way we progress to the next phase with a clear direction. Next, in the perceive phase, we identify the knowledge we have about the problem and the knowledge we need to have about the problem. It's about breaking down any assumptions we might have about the challenge, user, and context, where the solution will be used. In this phase, it's particularly important to really get to know our users, so we can start designing from an informed perspective. Then, in the prototype phase, it's all about idea generation. We let our creative energy loose and, based on our research, generate as many ideas as possible on how to solve the problem. Here we'll prototype some solutions, and if you have the opportunity, test them with your users. Then, you'll choose the final design, or the design you'd like to explore further. Finally, the produce phase is where we get ready to present our design solutions to our teammates, colleagues, or users to determine how to further develop or implement the design. This feedback is critical and will help you refine and improve your overall solution. In this phase, it's also a good opportunity to evaluate your design process and reflect on what you'd do differently next time. There are 3 design thinking principles that are always present when working with the Design to Improve Life compass. Freedom of movement, convergent or divergent, meaning you can always take a step backward in the process if you find out an earlier decision just wasn't the right one. Testing and iteration. Tests will give you many valuable answers, and it's important to adjust all the time so you can fail early to succeed later. And finally, cross-disciplinary teamwork. the more diverse the design team, the better the result. Now let's get started.
Going from exploration to definition can be a complex and complicated process. This is where open space can help. The technique guides you through a deep dive into the challenge, where you explore all of the problems within, define and organise them, and emerge with a clearer course of action. For example, you might be designing to tackle the effects of climate change in your local area, but you don't know where to start. Open space can help you explore the problems with your peers and eventually narrow down the exact issue you want to address. For this technique, you'll need A4 paper, preferably in a couple of colours, pens, plenty of floor space, and it will take at least 45 minutes. First, we'll be picking apart and mapping the overall challenge. To start, place your group in a large circle and give each person a pen and plenty of paper. For the next 5 to 10 minutes, everyone individually brainstorms and writes down problems within the overall challenge. The group then spends about 5 minutes reading their teammates' contributions. Next, the group works together to identify similarities between each other's views, organise the problems into topics, and give each topic a relevant title. Allocate about 15 minutes for this step. Once complete, the different topics are presented and collectively discussed. Finally, the topic is selected. With the design to improve life mindset, it's always important to choose a topic or course of action with the most life-improving potential. Remember, open space isn't about coming up with a final solution, but about exploring and breaking down the challenge. The technique can be used with any number of people and at any phase of project development.
To kickstart the creative mindset, why not play a game of idea poker? Using this technique, or game, design teams can explore and ideate on the challenge they're working with before they start developing a concrete solution. To play, you'll need one piece of A1 paper, a pen, post-its, a deck of picture cards, and it'll take about 30 minutes. You can download our printable deck from our website, or make your own picture cards by cutting out pictures from magazines or designing your own. Next, write down the question you want to brainstorm on the sheet of paper. For example, it might be, how can we make it easier for our youth to vote in elections? Then, seated around a table, give 5 image cards to each player. The first card is placed in the centre to stimulate new ideas. Each player then takes turns to contribute an idea that relates to both the image card and the question on the paper. Players can either take turns in presenting an idea or change the focus by putting down a new card. Lastly, when all 5 cards have been used, the group then creates an overview of the ideas. Similar ideas are then grouped together and finally presented and discussed as a group. Remember, the purpose of the game is to be spontaneous, share ideas as they pop into your mind, and get the creativity flowing. At the end of the game, it's great if you choose an idea you want to pursue, but it's not a requirement. The game can be played in 1 to 3 rounds or more. Players can also interrupt each other whenever they feel inspired to build on or present a new idea.
Rapid prototyping is all about idea development and unlocking creativity. With the technique, participants build lots of prototypes or models quickly based on the challenge they're working with. To begin, you'll need paper, string, scissors, tape, pens, post-its, and all kinds of creative materials. Or, if you're working digitally, you can use any drawing program you like. You can prototype as a design team or individually, and you'll need to allocate about 60 minutes for the technique. First, set up your materials or digital program and get your alarm clock ready. As you'll be prototyping in a series of rounds, we'd suggest 10 minutes to start, and then reducing the time per round as the group warms up. Now the fun begins. The alarm clock starts and the group quickly build their models based on their challenge. Once time's up, the group stops working on their models. The clock is then reset to a new time and set again for a new round. For each round, participants build a new idea. Each round is more intensive as the time is reduced, and the more rounds they complete, the better. The group can choose to present their models after each round or at the end of the whole technique. At the end, the models should be collectively discussed, and finally, participants choose the models they want to continue working with. Overall, the technique helps to move ideas from initial notes on post-its or sketches to a more concrete phase. Participants should get better at rapidly visualizing their ideas in a simple way. Rapid prototyping is ideal to use after one of the other idea development or creative warm-up techniques, and will help guide the group to a final solution to be tested.
As you come close to the end of the design process, it's time for reflection and presenting. Design overview is a perfect technique for this. With the Design to Improve Life process, it's essential to present both your design process and final solution. For this technique, you'll need all the materials to showcase your whole design process, from start to finish, such as plans, data, interviews, sketches, or prototypes. You might also like to use a digital tool such as PowerPoint or Google Slides, and you'll need between 1 to 2 hours to complete. To get started, design teams set up their workstations using tables and wall space to create a clear overview of their materials. Next, on post-its, they write their individual reflections on what parts of the design process and final solution they believe are most important to include in the presentation. Then, taking turns, team members present their reflections and place their post-its on the related materials. The design teams then discuss their notes and collectively choose the main points to include in the final presentation. Finally, groups prepare a presentation script. Key questions that should be addressed include the process, how do they work and what do they learn? The challenge, what's the problem and its context? The target groups, who is affected by the challenge? The solution, the final design and its developing stages? And finally, flaws. If we had more time, what would we like to develop further? Once all the steps are complete, the design teams are ready to present.